Hello and welcome back. So this is where we left off in the last video. This is what we've done so far, and it is fully responsive, right? Yeah, it's fully responsive. So next up, what are we supposed to do? We have to do the skills section, whereby we have front end, then the skills, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Sass, then Figma, Adobe Illustrator. By the way, I don't really know Figma. I just included it here, right? Well, I do know a little bit on Adobe Illustrator, and also I've not worked at any of these places. Okay, so let's get to the code. If you notice, I'd already added the HTML for this section, right? I don't want to write every single thing because it's going to take a while. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through the process of everything. So I'm just going to comment all this out. Okay, nice. So now we have this. Oh my god, the images are way too big, right? They're super big. But don't worry, we'll fix that. First of all, let me explain what I've done here. Okay, so let's look at the reference sites which I've done already. So I'm creating another section, right? So the section is going to house this content, right? So I named it skills container, right? So this section is wrapping everything in the skills container. Then we have a div skills, right? So this is a skill, like the first skill section, right? So we have an H3 with front end, right? So these are the front end tools I know, right? So we have skill item. Remember, I'm using BEM, right? With BEM, you say skill, then you use skill item, right? So this div here is what is going to have this progress bar. I could have used the progress tag, but I decided to use this. Take note, we also have a progress tag in HTML. I think it is like this progress. But I don't. Wow, Emmet is not working for it. Wow, interesting. Yeah, I think it's like that. Yeah, you can see it has this little animation. I'm sure there's a way for you to manipulate and make it work whatever way you want it. But for this tutorial, I'm going to stick with what I already have here, right? So just this div which I manipulated in order to get the skill bar with this nice animation, right? So we have a p tag with HTML, right? This HTML, then the skill bar that belongs to it, then the same concepts, right? CSS, then the skill bar, then the same thing. Notice on the class of the skill bar, so this skill item bar, right? So the parent's name underscore, then the like child name, right? Then I have a modifier, right? Skill bar, skill item bar, then dash dash one. So this is one, then this is two, and this is three, and this is four. Right? So that's my way of like naming things. So the parents, the name will still remain before the child name. Right? Why others might just say skill bar, that is totally fine. But I prefer skill item bar, but it's way long. Right? So now we have another skill section, right? This is the second skill section. So design our Figma, pretty much the same thing. Then we move to experience, right? So what are my experiences? We have the H2. Firstly, we have the overall container wrapped in a section. VS Code has this cool trick. So when you highlight over a tag or an element, it gives you a short description. So the section elements represent a generic solution of a document application. A section in this context is a thematic grouping of content. Each section should be identified typically by including a heading from H1 to H6 elements as a child section, blah blah, and so on. So when using a section, it's a semantic HTML tag, right? So it's new, and you should always use semantic HTML like section, main. Notice I'm not using a main, right? I'm going to wrap every single thing in the main tag right now. So let's wrap my O elements, right? So Control Shift P, then we can wrap with abbreviation, then main does that for us. So now let's go back explain. So I have a div here. I named it experience grid, but for now we're not going to work with grid because we're still on the mobile view, but I'm just going to leave this here. So there's going to be, like, if I should extend this, right? So you can see the this is its experience. So at this point it does like this. So don't worry, we'll get to that later on. So now in the experience grid, now we have this this div, right, holding the image, right? Okay, it's just holding the image, right? So this image is, right, the Microsoft image, Facebook and Netflix, right? Then this section about our div, right, the experience content, here's the experience, then here's the experience icon, then here we have the experience content, right? I should probably give the alt a name, so this should be Windows. So it's a good practice to always include alt, right? The alt attributes, the attributes, whatever. You could read the description, VS Code auto generates for you, right? So it's always good to give your images an alt attribute and including something, right? So I could say Windows image, something like that. Then I have small, right? I don't know if you've ever used small tag before, but when we highlight over this to tell you what small tag is supposed to do. So like this, the year I started working at Windows to the year currently, which is well, I've not worked here yet. Hopefully I work there. Then we have H3, right? So what was my position there in the office? Then we have some gibberish. If you are wondering how I typed this, I didn't. So you could say lorem 10. Then by doing this, Emit auto generates some dummy text for you, so you don't have to like type text. So I'm going to stick with the one I used. Then basically the same thing here and the same thing here, since we have three experience section. So now let's get to the form part. I'm going to close this, maybe leave this open. This I don't need. The base, I'll leave it open for now. Then component, right? So now we're going to grab the skill, right? So the skill, then I'm going to add include. Remember, whenever you're using Sass, maybe you've created a mixin, right? So at include card style, I'm saying, remember we created a mixin here, right? Mixin is like a function, right, that makes you reuse things, right? Reuse properties we've already declared. I've declared all these properties, right? And I want to be able to reuse them as I please. So all I'm saying is that skill section, right, at include card style. So if I go to the plain CSS and you see skill as background, white, padding, box sizing, box shadow, which it's got from the mixing. Moving on now, this skill section is from here, right? So this div, so we can see it's already applied those styles. You can see the Bola videos and so on. Let's keep styling. So now I'm going to next the item, right? Item, right? I'm targeting the skill item. Then I want this to be display flex. Justify content center. Align items center. Right? This is to make things stay at the middle at every given time. Then I'm going to say gap of 10 pixels. I know this doesn't look like the original version like this, but don't worry, we'll get there. So in here, I'm going to next the p tag, right? So the text transform, I want them to be uppercase, the flex basis. So flex basis is more like the width. I could also use width for this, or since we're using flex box as the parent, so we could apply flex basis here. To know more about that, we could search on W3 Schools. Right, W3 Schools is a great platform. Then search flex basis here. Okay, so next off we have the bar, right? So yeah, I'm saying the skill item, then bar, right? Skill, then this is skill item. Then since this is nested in skill item, it's skill underscore underscore item underscore bar, right? So with this, I want the width to be 100%. Height should be 10 pixels. Then the background should be lightened blackish with 90%, right? Sass also has this cool method, right, that you can use. You can see lighting, there's darken. So you put the color value, then the amount. I could make this to be 20%, then you see it's darker, then 30%, it's a little still like 40%. So you get, the higher you increase it, the lighter it becomes, right? The maximum is 100%. So there's lighting, there's softening, there are other methods like that. Probably as we go on, we'll look at some other methods that Sass offers us, right? So B videos. Is this very no videos? Nope. IUS. Right, so this doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to copy this. My base, put this as 10 pixels, then change this. Instead of using 10 pixels here, I'm just going to use a variable. Then now we've gotten that border radius applied. So now position relative. Don't worry, I will explain why I gave this position relative in a second. Overflow hidden. Even the overflow hidden, I'll explain why I gave it, why I'm adding this property here. It's basically for the skill, so what is actually moving. Okay, so next up, we're going to use the featured element after. So this is saying this guy, right? So the skill underscore item underscore bar, right? Then the featured element, it has this featured element after, right? So whenever you're using a featured element, you have to say content. There should be nothing in the content, right? So we could actually put something here and it would display. Wow. Okay, probably because of this. It isn't displaying. Yeah, because I haven't said position absolute. Wow, that should work. Right, it doesn't work for some reason. So I'm just going to leave it blank. Right, so the height should be 100% of its parent, right? Then the background should be, I want a variable, so skills blue. Now it's wondering what skills blue is. You can see Sass shows an error anytime it doesn't find a variable here in the terminal, right? So it doesn't know what skills blue is. That's my bad because I haven't declared it here, right? So skills blue should be hashtag 2F80 EDB3, right? So what other thing would I need? What other attributes would I need? So I want padding, right? My padding should be 1.5 rem, and also I want my btn blue, right? So the button color should be hashtag 5C94E1. I think that's all I need. Moving on to the components now, that error goes away, but we're still not seeing the elements yet. Even though we're not seeing it, okay, we're not seeing it because of the width, right? So I could make this 40%. Okay, we're not still seeing it. What is going on? Then you want the border radius to be the same as the variable, which is 10 pixels. Oh, why isn't it showing already? Oh, so the reason why it isn't showing is because of I am supposed to put the ampersand sign, right? So I'm supposed to say and skill item bar, then grab whatever is here, then put it here. That's what the ampersand sign is doing, right? Then after, right? So if you check the CSS now, this is what it shows. But in the components, if I should remove the ampersand sign, then I go to the plain CSS, you can see this space here. So it is assuming that this is nested inside of this, and that is not what we want. We want this O element, then want to grab the fixed element after. So by putting the ampersand sign, right, that now it shows. Then we could play with this. Maybe we want 200%, 200 pixels rather. Now looking at this, our yeah, so the skill section doesn't maintain the given max width of the container. Let's fix that real quick. So I'm going to go back to my HTML, go way up, right, class. I'm going to name this container. I'm going to go to my base, the base file. Underneath here, so underneath the body, just the container. So I want it to be position relative. There's a reason for that. The width should be 90%. I don't know what I'm typing. 90%, and I want the margins to be 3 rem. So the top and bottom should be 3 rem. Then we want auto, right? So every single thing should be centered. Then we want a max width to be 500 pixels, right? So this is a tip for responsive, right? So always wrap for responsive layouts, right? Wrap all your elements with these properties, these 3 properties that are essential. So give it a fixed, like a width that you want it to be the ideal width. So on a smaller screen, it's going to always maintain that width. Then on a larger screen, it stops at the max width, right? Then we're saying auto, right? Always be at the center of the screen. So for now, we still have this this section looking not good. Let's figure out why that is happening. So in the components, right, I have all this. I'm going to get rid of all of this and see if that fixes the problem. Yeah, that fixes the problem. So now instead of it having its own fixed width, its own margin, max width and margin top, right? So it's using what the container is providing. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. And now we also have no spacing between each element, and that is bad. So what I'm going to do in my base, right? So base are things that are not too specific to elements, right? So I'm going to say section plus section. Don't worry, I'm going to explain what that is. Then we want the margin top to be 2 rem, right? So we're saying section plus section. So each section, right? So this is the adjacent selector, right? So you can see the little preview that VS Code brings for us. So we're saying section, then the next section under the section element, right? If it was this, it will assume that the section that is nexted in the above section, the parent section, or using the plus sign, we're saying the section beneath the section, not directly inside of the parent. Probably I should write an article about this, right? So I got this tip from Kelvin, right? He has an amazing course, which I'll leave in the description below, submission you here, right? So moving on, even the skill section doesn't have like spacing, but don't worry, we'll fix that. But now let's go to the animation. How did I create this wonderful animation using Sass? Now let's do the same here. So now we're going to we're targeting each of the modifiers, right? So I'm saying skill item bar, then the modifier dash dash one, that is to identify a modifier. Then I want to target the after, right? So each of them have this featured class, featured elements attached to the modifier. So the animation, right? So Emmy does this for you, but the name should be 1. Then the duration should be 1000 milliseconds. The timing function should be is out, right? Delay, I don't need delay. Iteration, I don't need this, right? Then direction, I want forward, right? So the animation should always stay at the ending point, right? So now we have to create a keyframe. My keyframes, the name is 1. So I'm going to say at 0%. At 0%, I want the width to be 0. Then at 100%, I want the width to be 80%. Now you can see this first one, the first element, which is what I'm applying the keyframe to, does the animation pretty good, right? So start from here and ends there. But now, is there a better way, right? We can't we could duplicate this for each of the sections, which is cool, but is there a better way for us to create a mixing that makes us do this like faster, right? So we don't have to like rewrite every single thing by ourselves, because we have 1 2 3 4 5 6, we have 6 skills, right? And we don't want to rewrite this everything by ourselves. We want to write it once, then we use it as long as we want, right? So I'm going to go to my base, then I'm going to create another mixing called the name should be the bar animation. I could have probably named it the progress bar. Mixins can also take parameters like normal functions, like regular functions, right? So this mixin is going to take a parameter called name, and it's going to take a parameter called last. So it's also like a variable, so that's why I'm using the $sign, right? I'm going to just copy or cut this and put it here, right? So instead of dynamically saying this is 1, right? I don't want this to be 1. I want to encapsulate. Well, I don't really know, but like this is something like template string in JavaScript, right? Where you use the $sign, then you use curly braces. But in Sass, you use hashtag, then you use the curly braces. So you're saying, I want whatever should be here, should be the name, right? Should be the value that is going to be passed as name, right? So I want the value to be here. So now this is still going to be 0%. Then this, the value should be it should be the last, right? It should be the last value. So from the preview, right, from the one I've already done, each of them have different stopping points, right? So they are not just stopping at the same weight, right? Each of them have different. So that's why we're creating this variable to determine the last. I don't need to do this. I could just do this, right? So the value should be passed here. Next off, we want to create another mixin for the name. So mixin, we're going to say name animation, right? Then this is going to take the name. Then I'm going to copy all of this, paste it here. Then instead of it being hard coded as 1, we're going to do this. Then this is going to have the name. So now let's go back to our components, get rid of this, then at include bar animation. But this time the name is going to be 1. Then we want this to stop at 80%, right? Also at include the name animation, then we want this to be 1. So I could duplicate this 6 times. Now I want this to be Ctrl D is to copy like the same word, right? I mean, not to copy, to select the same words in duplicate places, right? I change this to 2, right? Copy this, then change this to 3, then it should be 4. Then I want this percentage to be 70. Then I want this to be 50. Then I want this to be 40. Then I want this to be 20%. Wow. Just like that. And we've gotten ourselves this pretty good looking animation. Right? So now next off, we have basically we're done with the skills, right? The first skill section, which is the front end. We're done with that section. Then we would like to make the second section, right? This place we want animation. So this time, instead of being 1, 2, so instead of the modifier being named 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, like so on like that, this is named design 1 and design 2. I could have come up with a better name, but bear with me with my bad naming skills. Right, so I'm going to write 1 back because I want to auto select in multiple places. Then this should be design 1. Then I want this to be 20% like that. Then I want this should be design 2. Right, I'm going to get rid of this, then name this design 2. So I want it to use the same bar as 4, right? As 4. right? So we know for like this, the fourth animation has this animation, this keyframe animation with 40% at its last width, right? I want to apply the same animation to the design too, so they both have the same ending point. So that's it for the animation. So we wrote this once, right? We wrote the keyframe once, then we wrote the name once, and automatically in our CSS file it gets duplicated for us 5 times, right? So we have one, then the name for two, then for three, then for four, then for five, right? So five, that is for design one. Then design two, right, is using the name as four. Like, if you have any better way of doing the same thing I just did with Sass, please comment below. I would love to see your way of implementing the same thing, right? So moving on, I want to target each section. So I could say and plus and, right? Then I want the margin top to be 1 rem. So all I'm doing here is I'm saying the skill item plus the skill item, right? So then I'm saying margin top should be 1 rem. So this would not target the first element, right? It's only target the elements below the first element, right? So the Sass, the JavaScript, and Sass. So that is where 1m is applied to. We could check it out. For some reason, okay, yeah, 1 rem, 1 rem, 1 rem, but on these elements there's nothing like that. So now in order to do that, let's get rid of this stuff. Then now let's target the front end, right? The front end tag, which is an h3 element selector. Text decoration should be upper. Now this is another Sass method which I've never used before, so I'm just going to get rid of this. Then I don't know why my, oh yeah, text decoration is supposed to be text transform, right? Then uppercase. I was wondering why the emit wasn't working, like why? Then the margin bottom should be 1m. It's not still working. Yeah, it's h3. Why isn't it working? Probably it's nested, yeah, it's nested here, right? So I've nested it inside of the skill item instead of the skill, because from the HTML, h3 is nested in the skill, not inside of the skill item. You should probably take note of that whenever you're working with Sass. But really, isn't Sass awesome from the name? Yeah, it is really awesome, and I love using it so much. Then in here, I could also grab the skill. So the skill plus skill, right, should have margin top 2rem. So now I've generated this space between each of the skill item. So you should probably get used to seeing me using ampersand plus ampersand, because I use the lot, right? So I'm targeting the skill, then skill. The first element, right? This first skill element isn't going to have a margin top of 2rem. It's just going to be the second one. Now when we refresh, we have the cool animation, and our site looks good, doesn't break, right? So we could expand this. It remains at this position. Don't worry, I'm going to fix the experience section real quick now. So next off, we have this. Okay, this is the desktop view. I'm going to shrink back to the mobile. Okay, so now we're going to do this experience section. Okay, so we're going to do all this. Okay, so let's start off. So I'm going to target the experience. Display flex. Then the margin top should be 2M. Let's see that. Now, what I just did broke my so I'm seeing the image, right? Let's go back to the HTML. So yeah, I'm targeting this section, this div section. So experience, right? In the experience, I have the experience icon, then I have the experience content, right? So I'm seeing this, then this flex that's created a role, right? And the image is way too big, right? Where are the other images? Wow. Reload. Currently, only the Facebook image is showing for some reason. Okay, let's proceed. I don't know why that is just only the Facebook logo is showing. Well, like, I'll fix that in a sec. Let's keep styling. So now there's another property special to Sass, right? So I could say at, then at root, then I want to grab something that belongs to Sass, right? I want to grab the ampersand. So I'm grabbing experience, then I'm saying underscore section. This is probably a bad way of doing something like this. Yet I just want to show you I could have named this properly, right? So what I did there at root, right? So I'm saying before experience, right? Do this before experience in my CSS file. So I'm saying at root, then I'm grabbing experience, I'm grabbing this whole name, the experience selector, then experience underscore section. So from here you can see I have experience here. So I'm going all the way up here to grab this selector, right? This class name. Then you can look at our clean CSS file. So you can see experience section, right? So at the root, like something above of experience, to get it, right? Then apply the card style. Remember the card style is a mixin, so apply this card style. The card style is for the shadow, the border widgets, padding, then voila, we've gotten this beautiful interface. The Facebook logo is way too big, the Microsoft images, they've all disappeared. Okay, so now let's target the icon, right? So this is the experience icon. The experience icon, then we want the image, right? The width should be 70 pixels, and that's supposed to shrink that. Wow, now all the icons are back. Now we can see them. The width should be 70. Oh yeah, the reason why they were not showing is that they were stacked together, right? So I'm pretty sure the Microsoft and the Netflix logo were underneath the Facebook logo, because I said each of them should be flex, right? So each experience, right? So this is an experience, this is another experience, and lastly we have this experience. So the experience section, each of the experience sections should be display flex, so each of them were stacked below each other, right? But now when I made the width 70 pixels, they are now visible. I hope that is clear. So I'm just going to add a transition, probably when we over the image, right? So what are we transitioning over, right? That will be the transform. Whenever, then I want filter to be 200 milliseconds. So you could target two properties here, right, of what you want to transition over, right? So the duration, this is 200 milliseconds, the same thing here. Don't worry, I'll get to that. then we want the cursor pointer. So cursor pointer is when you like over through the image elements, we get this cursor pointer. Okay, moving on. So we come here, then the ampersand first, remember. So we're saying grab everything above, right? The ampersand image, which is the experience underscore underscore icon, then underscore underscore image, then grab that, then apply the over featured class, right? So we want transform, we want scale 0.95, right? So whenever we over, we want it to reduce the size. If you are wondering why it has this smooth transition, it's because of this. If I should uncomment this out, then you see it just goes back, like it just gets smaller, but it isn't smooth. Also, like uncomment that out, then you get this nice transition. Also at over, we want to filter, then we want drop shadow. We want to add drop shadow. If you've never used this before, then 2 pixels, 10 pixels, then RGB A, then 128, 128. So now when we over, get the drop shadow. I'm sorry for the noise. Okay, so now looking at the live preview, we need some space here, right? So we need some spacing here. So let's target the and, right? So I'm saying the parent selector, then content, then I'm saying the margin left should be 2rem, right? So notice I'm using emit, right? So I'm saying ml, so mrnt is margin top, and so on like that. So 2rem, now it's pretty much like the finished design, right? So what else have we got to do, right? So I want the h3 tag, right? So I want to give it some margin so that it look better than what it is right now. So the top, I want to give the top 0.3 rem, then the left and right 0, then also I want this to be 0.5 rem. So if you don't know what like margin, when you give it a 3 unit, right? So when you give it a 3 inputs, right? So this first one is saying top, right? 0 is saying left and right should be 0, right? This last one is saying the bottom should be 0.5 m. So if you can see, if you can notice, it's probably it's hard to figure out, right? So the margin at the bottom here is kind of bigger than the margin at the top. So that is what this does. And also one thing I didn't show you guys, right, was how my Sass file, right, how I created this anytime I compile it. So it's a good practice that when you compile it, right, that your CSS file is generated in a CSS folder, right, so that people can, like, if anyone else is trying to like identify your code or like read your code, will be like, oh, okay, so this is where he did all the Sassy stuff, right, where you used Sass, but like this is your output, right, your output CSS. Notice that for this styling I've been breaking them down, right? So I am actually reducing the specificity, right? So you can see, like, unless here, okay, there's a specificity here. So VS Code also shows you the specificity rates, right? Selector specificity 0, 1, 1, right? I'll probably leave a link in the description where you could read on that. So it's also important, right? So the reason why everything is broken down like this, right? Remember, it's because of I am using the upper sand, right? I'm using the upper sand. So I'm just grabbing every single thing here and placing it here. Than actually typing experience, experience, then icon, experience image. That would be stressful. Okay, so now let me show you how I got this CSS style folder, right? So you come to your settings, then you click on settings or you press Control comma, right? So then you go to live Sass, right? So live Sass compiler, then live Sass exclude. I think it's this one. So live Sass compile settings format. Or is it this? I think it's. Let's try this. Yes, this is it. So live Sass compile settings dot format, right? So the format is expanded, right? So there are various formats, right? So like this is expounded, meaning that um it's the normal way where the way you write your CSS file, like normally, this is how it looks like. Like if I change this to um compressed, I think compressed is how, then I save this file. Hmm. Yes. Okay. So now all the CSS files are now in one line. And oh boy, that is so hard to read, right? There's no way you are going to read that. But if I should save the file here, my prettier is going to like change everything back. But remember, this is to like minify the CSS file, right? So all this white space that you're leaving also takes space, right? So it increases the file. So but when I save the file here, my prettier is going to make everything look prettier for me to read. But anytime I save this, it's always going to be this back because the watch Sass is currently watching and once I save. Right. So I don't want this. I don't want compressed. I want expanded, right? I want it to be the way normally it should be, right? Then the extension name, you see, I have Sass here, so it's going to end with dot CSS, right? Some might be mean dot CSS, right? So if I should save this, then come here and save this. Okay, yeah. So the mean file is created, right? So it's basically the same thing, but you generally use the mean, right? The mean dot Sass whenever this is compressed, right? So when this is compressed. But for now, I just wanted to show you, right? I'm getting rid of that. Going to delete this. Don't need it. And finally, the save part, right? So the save part is the directory you want the compiled file to be, right? So I'm saying slash CSS. So slash is saying, hey, create a new part, right? Then name that part CSS. Some might do something like this, dix slash then CSS, right? So it should, if I save this, then I save this, then you see it's going to create this dix folder, then the CSS folder, then the styles of CSS, which is still going to be the same styles, right? But I don't really know what this dicks mean. Honestly, I've just been seeing it on people's projects, right? So it's better for you not to copy other people and just do what is best for you. So I feel just naming the file CSS so that other people can actually read or like, oh my god. Okay, I don't know why this is taking long procedure to delete. And it's still there. Nice. Okay, so that's how you save your parts, right, in with CSS. So I think everything is working great. On like we've not made it responsive yet. So the final product is going to be like this, which is super responsive, as you can see, right? So everything is super responsive. But firstly, we would have to do the hobby section, then the project section, then the blog section before we get to the responsive um, section, right? So in the next video, right, so we're going to make this hobby section look great, and also the project. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.